Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to take a quick minute to talk about what it is that we're actually going to create during our new coaching and accountability groups, our excelling in any learning environment groups. So our goal here is to get kids of similar ages and similar schedules together and then really start to build up a toolbox of what it really takes to be successful, practically, realistically. So I know that we have a slideshow. I think it's linked down below. I'm going to go ahead and just take a minute here to share my screen. And what I would like to do is just kind of give you a visual as to a few of the ideas of pieces that we're going to be creating with your students in this group. So first thing is we are going to talk about planning because, of course, one of the key components to succeeding in school and managing, especially in uncertain circumstances and different learning environments, is going to be your planner. So we will talk about the key features of a planner and what it really takes to maintain and how specific it needs to be in order to be successful. So I'll show you kind of just a quick idea of the layout of our preferred planner, kind of that Monday through Friday left to right view, and then we kind of put our classes in order from the top down, and we are able to then kind of look forward, work backwards to break down the assignments and plan and learn to think ahead and just keep track of all of those small little to-dos. So we will be discussing planning in detail in our group coaching calls. The few other pieces I'm going to highlight here, and we will pick and choose kind of based on the dynamic of the group and get through as much as we really humanly possibly can. I would like to just show you a couple here. We're definitely for each student going to talk consistently about a homework routine or a daily routine. And I'll show you a couple other examples of what that looks like. I like to even be more specific than this, depending on the student. We want to be certain too that each weekend they take the opportunity to kind of reorganize, regroup, look at the week ahead. So we're going to talk about a weekend regroup or kind of a weekly checklist of items they should be running through just to keep themselves on track and moving forward. We will talk about study skills and how to successfully manage not just taking quizzes and tests, but also in an individual class, how to be successful. So we have something we call a class and study plan. Sometimes we use these templates. Sometimes you'll see we kind of just type them out on a Google Doc, write them on paper. The idea here is to start to really talk about what it's going to take to be successful in that class, in that given situation, with that teacher, in that environment. And then for you personally, of course, and then we'll talk about study skills and study ideas as well. And then one of the other pieces that we find to be very beneficial and obviously extremely important is that self-regulatory piece. So learning to kind of lay out some if-then plans, talking about if I find myself procrastinating, unmotivated, not getting to my Zoom calls on time, falling behind on studying or work, what can I do about it? So we talk about not only what can be done and action steps that they could take to prevent that situation or when that situation is occurring to get back on track, but we also talk about reminders and self-talk, maybe just reminding themselves, hey, this isn't going to feel great if I blow this off and my grades slip or my parents are mad or whatever it takes. So these will be very custom and personalized to that individual student. And we have many more pieces that we're going to use, but some of the other really key ones that I would like to show you are kind of for each student, we want them to have in some way, shape, or form, like we had talked about that homework routine, some kind of a daily checklist. This can include personal and academic items. So some students choose to do it in more of a Google Doc kind of a habit tracker where they can go in and just check mark the box when it's been completed to keep track. And we would make that very specific to that individual. And so they'll be creating their own. It could be in this format, or some students prefer to have it more in kind of a Google Doc or even handwritten, like I said, talking about what are those daily routines. Did you check in for your attendance if you're working remotely? Have you set up your station? Did you open and get your materials out? And then we get extremely specific into each individual class as to what types of platforms they should be checking, where they should be looking for assignments, how they can keep themselves on track and really stay successful. So we kind of break that down by class and in as much detail as possible, because especially in this new environment, we really do have resources coming from a variety of places depending on the teacher and the situation. So that's one of the big pieces. And as I mentioned before, that weekend regroup. So we have a lot of students who want very specific plans or who benefit very much from having a really specific plan as to what they're going to do every weekend to keep themselves on track. Okay, so our next piece that we're going to be talking about, this one is so important. It's a little time consuming in the beginning of the year, but it's kind of a game changer for most kids. Again, we want everything for these students to be specific and visual, very concrete, black and white, in your face. I encourage them to either write these out or print them out and post them on the wall so they can constantly be referencing and looking at them to stay on track throughout the year. So this one I call the master organization chart. Really what we're doing is we're looking at each course and we are filling in the blanks. This is going to prompt them to have a lot of self-awareness and to learn a lot and ask a lot of questions right out of the gates at the beginning of the year. We want them to fill in for each class. Basic teacher information. When is the teacher available for help? Where do I get my homework assignments? How do I turn in my homework? Because that's going to look very different, especially this year. Redo and retake policy. What's the late work policy? Where is my grade coming from in the class? What are the top areas of focus? What's the grade breakdown? Grades are going to count this year. And so I know that that's a little bit stressful for many students who aren't comfortable with the virtual or e-learning environment, but it can be managed. And with these tools and these basic pieces set up, they are going to find that it's a lot more easy to manage, and they're going to realize much more success when they're using these. But again, they have to actually reference and use them. So that's why we wanted to do this course as kind of like as a workshop, as a 6-week program where we're checking in twice a week, just really having that touch point of, you know, have you updated your to-do list? What else have you learned about the class? Did you fill the chart in? How is your planner going? How is your motivation going? So other pieces on here, again, talking about what it takes to be successful. What's the absent policy? And then any other information for the class, any other materials they're going to need, ongoing or recurring items like journal entries or lab write-ups or notes. And then I like to have them write the name of a couple students in the class so that they can reach out to that person via whatever avenue. I guess now it's like a snap message or whatever it might be, but really I would say text message, but apparently that's old school. Telephone would be really going back in the day. So some people they could reach out to ask questions when they're stuck. We really want to start talking about accessing resources and then talking about accessing your teachers. So we are going to talk a lot about communicating with teachers, how to reach out, how often to reach out, because I think that's a challenge for a lot of students these days, at least what I'm finding with a lot of the kids and parents that I talk with. Then if you have accommodations, what's that going to look like? So we'd want those students to map that out. So it's kind of a crazy large chart, but it's one of our most valuable or invaluable pieces. And the students, even after completing it, will come back to us weeks or months later and say, wow, you know, I didn't think I was going to really use that, but I find myself checking it all the time to answer questions about policies or procedures or where to find something. So that is our master organization chart. And I have kind of a completed example here just so you can see what that looks like. And then just one other example of a checklist, or one of the ways that we have done this, you know, we want to talk about, like we said, how to be successful in each class. And so we're going to talk about ideas for not only how to do well in the class, but then also how to actually study and prepare. And some students need this broken down to a very minute level of detail. Others just need a few basic reminders. So we're going to have the students kind of customize everything it is that they need in order to stay successful. So those are kind of our top few pieces that we will be teaching the students about, sharing, discussing, working on, and then talking about really, are we actually accessing and using and maintaining these things throughout the year? And we'll also be doing some problem solving and kind of real-time practical application stuff in our conversations. But I wanted to share with you some of the really incredible pieces and very impactful pieces that we've been using in our practice for a long time and that students kind of express as being their go-tos and kind of the big game changers for them when they are working on being more successful at managing and with their grades, and of course just feeling good about what they're doing. So hopefully that is helpful. The links below will direct you to more information about the groups that we are running. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and let me know. Thanks so much.